Hi, everyone. I'm Cynthia Garrett, and welcome to another session. I am really excited to have someone back who has been a friend of mine since she was a guest on the London sessions a while ago. And so in this new season, I just really wanted to get back some people that really stood out to me from that first season of the London sessions when all of this sort of launched. So you guys know Carrie Lloyd. She's right here from the UK, but she's currently in California, where she serves as a youth pastor at Bethel Ministries, Bill Johnson's church. And you also may know her from her books, The Virgin Monologues and Prude, which are both available, and I highly recommend you pick up a copy. Anyway, thanks for joining today's session. And Carrie, thank you for being with us.
Oh, it's so wonderful to be here, yet with you at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm trying to manage this thing of not being able to touch your knees and hands and face.
Exactly.
I'm just trying to get my head around it. I miss you. I'm so glad to see you.
So you got to tell me, what are you doing in California?
So, well, obviously Bethel is Northern California. Right now I'm in Los Angeles because I've just taken 20 of my 60 students down to Los Angeles. We had a mission trip. There was we had about 3 solid, hardcore days of just everything from street evangelism, one-on-one meetings with industry people, to we're doing this amazing ministry to a few small churches, everything from Hispanic churches to just different places. We went to Skid Row. We went to the Dream Center. I don't know whether you guys have heard of the Dream Center.
Oh, I know the Dream Center well.
Oh, they do amazing homeless ministry with them. So we were kind of partnering with them, and I was just it's been the most remarkable 3 days, and we're all kind of just trying to digest what's just happened. We saw carpal tunnel be healed. We saw color blindness be gone. We saw blind eyes opened. We saw people get saved. I baptized 7 people in the ocean yesterday.
Woohoo!
Like, it was just amazing. And California just feels very open to the Lord. I think even a few years ago it felt very different, but it's something stirring and changing here. So, there's nothing like having fresh hearts for the Lord that are just out to go get, and not with an agenda, but like, I just want to discover you, and why you where you're at.
Yeah.
So that's what we've been doing, and this is my first day off, so.
I love it. So I got you.
Yeah, exactly.
So I got you. I love, something I love that you referenced, that, in California, there's this openness on the streets to Jesus in a way that there really isn't in a lot of parts of Europe and in England.
Yeah. Totally. It's so true. I was really stunned because we went to the Watts area, the project. So I'm one of my students went, oh my gosh, have you seen Training Day? That's where we're going to go and do ministry this morning. So I was like, oh, okay. And there's a kind of, I'm a white girl. I'm pretty terrified of like all the amazing activity that's going around there, but I didn't feel cool enough. And like, these are kind of ex-gang guys who are just amazing guys. And I literally sat down on doorstops and just talked to all of the community. And one of the guys turned around to me, and his name was JJ, and he said, do you know what the Bible stands for? And I went, what? And he said, basic instructions before leaving Earth. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, he was teaching me stuff about the gospel that I didn't even think of, because of their lives with this. They've been in jail loads and lost a lot of friends and family to drugs. And, it was just astounding. And one of these guys, I was just undone. This guy was just saying, why I'm not going back to jail? And I'm like, why? He said, because he saved me. And so just had this profound conversation with guys that I was just undone.
Ah, wow. Yeah, I get it. I get it, and I think I, like a lot of Americans, have often taken my freedom to be a Christian for granted. And it's traveling to other countries that has made me realize, like, hey, it's kind of cool. We get to actually be loud, proud, vocal, and,
That's
Christians.
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
because even in England, you don't really have many sort of terrestrial radio stations that will be playing Christian music. But when I was in America, I'm constantly going through Christian radio stations where worship music's playing. It's just not available in England. And so, yeah, we don't emotionally express ourselves as much in England as we do in America, which I think was one of the reasons why I moved out here, to be honest with you.
Yeah, right,
I
exactly.
was allowed to have emotional expression and it wasn't a weakness.
Oh,
no offense, Britain, but...
I think I just understood something. You were sent there by God to learn to express yourself more and to break out of your English shell. I was sent to England to rein myself in because I'm all over the place. Because I'm too loud and proud.
Calm yourself, Cynthia. Go to England for a bit. They'll calm you down.
Exactly. I love it. It's kind of like an exchange program. It's pretty awesome.
I know.
God, you know, God, honestly, we're laughing, but I think God is so intentional.
Oh.
You know?
Without question. I've never known, even on this trip, I've seen just such strategy from him. Everything from we're getting, you know, prophetic words about what does March the 26th mean, March the 25th, or the guy called Eric, and all of a sudden we're realizing it's someone's husband standing next to us, or it's someone's birthday right next to us, and he's just so detailed orientated. It's been profound. Yesterday we had like 30 people in this sweet little service, and one of my students goes, there's a girl called Katie, and she's a waitress. And she was right at the back, and he just starts just speaking stuff out of her and what the Lord was saying about her. She was just weeping because she couldn't believe that someone was, that our Lord could be so detailed and literally register everything about this girl, whether it's her door number to her age to her birthday. And yeah, and it's just been, oh, I keep talking about it, sorry, but I'm just a bit undone at the moment. We washed the feet of the homeless in Skid Row.
Wow.
And they're sweet old man who was just sitting down, and one of my students said, you know, I just really feel like the Lord wants to tell you that God's really pleased with you. And he turns around and he goes, he's pleased with me? Oh. And it literally, as my student's washing his feet, he said, yeah, that's all I keep getting, that he said, all my life I've wanted to know that I've pleased him in some way. And he starts looking up and he goes, you're pleased with me? And just starts crying, and you just start watching this person just going through like the secret place in front of us. It was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. Oh, it's just beautiful.
Oh my God.
So the details are big.
Wow, that's profound.
Right.
Yeah, that's profound. And, you know, honestly, I'm so happy that you're sharing with this because I can tell how full you are.
Oh my goodness, it's everything. There's one thing talking about it, is another thing actually going out and taking risk and just being vulnerable with people and just trying to find Christ in everyone, you know? Yeah. So it's just, it makes you come alive. It's beautiful.
Yeah, you know, Carrie, the last time I saw you in California, I guess a few months ago, and we visited, and one of the things that you said to me, I asked you, I said, you know, Carrie, as a youth pastor at Bethel, which is, you know, so many young people feel drawn to Bethel for at least a season, right? And I said, what do you think is the biggest issue of concern you see in young people today? And you said, and I loved what you said because it was so accurate for how I experience the young people whose lives I sow into. And you said, well, the biggest issue that I see is that young people are either all head knowledge or all heart knowledge. And they really need to be both. And, you know, do you see a trip like this as making a difference in that problem?
I think so. I mean, I think also a lot of the time we're numbing our pain. And we're not actually sort of having the wisdom that it has to actually face things head on. So I've been saying this a lot recently, but I really do feel like the number one person that explained to us how to handle pain was Christ. And he always faced it head on. And all the things that we do in a sort of youth culture these days are to numb pain. It could be everything from Instagramming too much to porn addictions to sexual activity with people, or selfies that are just that are kind of feeding a short-term fix, but we're not getting a long-term gain, and we're not being given the wisdom or the insight to realize that actually we're not helping ourselves, and all the things that we're wanting to fill us up are actually not doing that. So there is this sort of, it's extreme on some level. It's all one or all the other. Liberalism in itself is, well, you know, we'll just let everything be as free and as allowing as possible. We'll be as lenient as possible, so it shows people that we love who they are. And I'd be like, actually, no, my dad would discipline me in a beautiful way because he cared for me.
Right.
And he wanted to make sure I wasn't going to hurt myself. So there is a wisdom there that goes, no, actually, self-discipline on, and I don't mean on religious levels, I just mean on a healthy emotional management scale, means that I actually get to have freedom and joy to its fullest, you know?
Absolutely. And it's really, really sad, because you're so right. We don't live in a world that understands that love is limited. It's,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It has, love would impose boundaries. But boundaries feel like rules to us in the world. And that, why do you think that is? Why don't people experience boundaries as love? Why do they experience it as, it's a bunch of rules?
I think because sometimes when we've been brought up, or we've been parented, a lot of the rules were used for control, from fear potentially of our parents, that we were told not to do things because they were scared that something would happen to us, or there was a lack of trust towards us. Yeah. So I do find that the more I know that even with my own students, I'm pretty confrontational with them, but I do two things. I'm not suggesting I've got this perfectly right. I'm still learning. But I would say that it's very easy to confront people when you genuinely love them. So people don't feel chastised or told off in any way if I'm doing it with a sense of, but this is my vision for you. This is your finest version of who you are, and the gap between who you are and what you're doing right now is this big, and we can get a little bit closer to giving them a vision. Actually explains why, hey, this is not helping you. This addiction is not helping you. The way that you're being with people, the way that you're isolating people, the way that you're being independent, the way that you're not trusting anyone, the way that you're putting up a bunch of walls, the way that you're not being teachable, all these different things that actually build character and create the fruits of the Spirit. And I do think that wisdom and the heart there's a union that goes on, that I actually start to understand the fruits of the Spirit when I actually build on my character. And some of that is hard graft, self-sacrifice. It's not boasting, and all the things in 1 Corinthians 13. It's all those things wrapped together that I think, gosh, he loves to work on our soul and our character. And there's so many opportunities that I used to ignore and just push on the side because I wanted to be happy and I wanted to be joyful. But I was numbing pain so much, I never actually experienced true joy either. And so somewhere we live in limbo all the time. And I started to realize, all right, if I embrace pain, not on a sadomasochistic level, but more on actually that hurt. Oh, that hurts. I'm just starting to have a conversation with my heart now. My heart's going, oh yeah, that hurt. It breaks off the shame of feeling bad about emotions almost. But then it also allows vulnerability to come in, which is way more authentic, way more real. I start to know what I really feel about things rather than what I feel like I should feel about things. And then I can start having conversations with the Lord going, that feels ugly. I didn't even realize I had that in me. I didn't realize that I was not thinking that I was enough. I didn't realize I was so self-critical, or whatever the things are that we do to just stop we start to define a perspective about what God is based on how we are with ourselves, which can be really dangerous.
Really dangerous. You know, as I listen to you speak, what I'm hearing is it's a purification process of the spirit and the mind that takes place with God, you know, that continual transformation of our mind, you know, and it really does affect our lives, you know, in every way.
Yeah.
How do you go about, you know, because I think one of the things that I wanted to touch on in this show is, like it or not, because of your books and because of your boldness about purity in the world and about God restoring purity and the things you talk about in both the Virgin Monologues and in Prude, what do you see about, and I taught a lot about purity last season. I just think,
great.
oh my God, I just think it's so necessary. You have to have a purity of the mind, purity of the spirit, purity of the body, right? But do you think that there's an increase in purity in the youth today or a decrease? you know, in the couple of years that we've actually been, you know, that we've had this dialogue? What do you see?
Yeah.
Is there a change? Is the meter shifting one direction or the other?
It's funny, actually, I was having a conversation with a couple of actors last night about this, and, you know, they're faith-led, and we're all very aware that, you know, by 5 years of age, kids know how to play with iPads and iPhones, and there was no way that I had access to stuff that they did back then. So the normality of things, of sexualization, even walking past the Victoria's Secret's window, I'm like, gosh, that's got to be pretty hard for a guy that's struggling with porn and doesn't want to objectify women. You know, that's got to be really tough for the guy to walk past that if he's really trying to. I think purity is a posture. So hear me out. There could be guys that really do lead a life of purity, and they never watch anything, they never look at anything. They're very stringent, almost to a point of legalistic about what they don't watch or look at. But there still could be. They don't really. There's still a sort of a huge amount of fear, or not necessarily much trust, or there's even a lot of shame in any kind of sexualization. So somewhere we've got to find a happy balance of like, no, we are sexual beings, but we've got to understand what's actually good for us as compared to what's just a quick fix that actually doesn't help any long-term gain. So most of the times, you know, there's just not a lot of heart or vision for marriage or longevity. So that's why people don't have a heart for purity, because they're like, well, I don't really care about marriage. I'm not really interested in marriage.
Right.
What do we? And so people are actually doing purity based on covenant or marriage, whereas purity is actually a posture of the heart. It actually hasn't got much to do with purity in regards to marriage and covenant. That's part of it, but it can't be the main reason. Otherwise, you know, we mess up all the time.
Totally.
Especially if you're waiting at 36 for your guy. Like, you still, you know, there's still that. There's got to be another reason why I'm having purity in my life, and it can't just be because I'm waiting for the one, you know.
Totally.
And so,
totally. Well, that would have everything to do, I imagine, with, like you said, you know, making God and your perspective eternally the goal, instead of you know, making a guy, which, I mean, I think guys are great, and I certainly love my husband, and my son is a guy, but neither of them provides enough motivation for me to make major life changes. It had to be God.
It's so true, so true.
You know?
I'm so glad that I'm discovering this now. It's taken me a while, but I think that's kind of lifted, or any hopelessness that I had about, oh, am I ever going to get married? You know, any of that is starting to lift, because I'm like, oh, I make really good executive decisions these days in regards to how I take care of myself, how I look after my heart and my value to myself. And it's not just, it actually flows out into everything, whether it's how I am with my bosses at work, how it is with my students. I can take a hit, and I don't take it quite so badly as I used to, because I actually care for myself, and I value myself, and I've been taking care of myself. And so I trust my instincts, my thoughts, my feelings about things. I'm teachable, and I let people in because I have no shame anymore, and all these things that start layering up based on what we choose to do purity-wise.
Interesting. Do you think that some cultures are more easily, they can more easily grasp the notion of purity than others?
Oh, without question. Without question. I mean, actually, you know, I've said this before, but in the environment that I'm in Bethel, it's very easy to just run along with a culture of like, we just don't have sex before marriage. Yes, people still go through a journey, but it's much easier to stay in with a crowd of people that feel the same thing as you. Yeah. But a lot of students really do struggle with the transition of, after that culture, they go to different places in the world, and they have to explain why they are saving themselves. Yeah. And why their frowns are the response of, no, I'm actually choosing to stay myself until marriage these days. People are like, well, but you've already done it. Or, I don't understand, but this isn't really working out for you, is it? Because the guy isn't, you know, all of those questions that can really start to, after a while, start to make you go, am I kidding myself? Am I just being stupid in this particular journey? Right. Or is this just too traditional? Is it too old hat for the 21st century.
And
so,
yeah, I agree. I got to tell you a story since you met Hannah, who's like my adopted daughter, who's English.
She's so wonderful. I love her.
Yeah, me too. Me too. She's my son's best friend, and she's from here in London. And she went on a vacation recently with some of her girlfriends, and it was hard for her because she was saying that she spent the better part of the week that they were on vacation justifying and explaining her faith, and especially justifying and explaining her choices to be celibate or to try to be celibate. And anyway, by the end of the trip, she sort of became target number one. Like, let's break her down. Let's go get her. Even amongst like girlfriends sending, guys to like, oh, go take that thing. And, now me, I naturally go to the warfare of it. Like that was just a spiritual assignment against you. But it is so, it's so interesting because how do you teach people purity when they come from cultures, especially these our kind of westernized cultures? Look, England and the States are so similar, and every country that follows suit after us, it's like, be careful what you covet from another culture, because in all honesty, there's good and there's bad, right? Yes,
pretty good.
Yeah, we're able to be loud and proud and bold Christians maybe more easily in America than other places in the world. However, our westernized indulgences really cause those who don't embrace a faith or don't understand their identity as a son or a daughter, it causes them to really laugh at and put down that which they don't understand. So how do you teach purity?
It's really interesting because the more I think about it, I've been in Hannah's situation so many times, especially when I was younger, less so now because I'm in church, and so, I guess I'm protected a little bit by my community. But when I come to, I'm going to Coachella next week with a bunch of other students, and I'm very aware we're gonna see some stuff,
Oh yeah.
There might be things laid out right in front of us, and so I had to just choose very wisely and carefully who my students were, ones that are called to the party scene and called to do that kind of line of work, who can have a resilience to some of that stuff, and some of them I'm aware that they came from those backgrounds. So it's I think there's something about no one can argue with me about my own experience. Even though they try to, it's like, no, I actually made a decision to come back to it because I was pretty heartbroken when I was having sex with my boyfriends. I had a great time whilst I was in a relationship with them. It's when I was breaking up with them that was so painful. And so after a bit, it's like, you can continue to argue with me about my experience, but I'm not going to sit here and argue with someone who's decided to come out in a homosexual lifestyle. I've never gone through that experience. I'm not going to choose to start arguing with someone about what they're choosing to do. And it always fascinates me. Why do Christians start to face, in a world of liberalism, why are we facing so much opposition about our choices when I'm not allowed to disagree with someone else's choice because it doesn't necessarily, and I wouldn't choose to do that anyway. My heart is to love them wherever they're at, not to expect them to be in the same situation for me. So therefore, I would love it if I got the same reciprocal response.
I hear you.
One of my gay friends actually said something really interesting, and he said, Carrie, I could disagree with you being a Christian and the beliefs that you've chosen to do, and no one would bat an eyelid, no one would blink. If you choose to disagree with me on a homosexual lifestyle, I'll win still as well. I'll still win.
He's right.
And I'm like, it is actually a really good point that I think if we're going to be this open and liberal about, you just choose whatever you want to do, then please don't question why I would just stick to something that we all used to do at some point in the culture.
Right.
So just because I'm not going ahead with the times with everyone else doesn't mean that it's wrong.
Yeah.
And just on an atheist level, I think I even had the same feelings. This was before I even came back to Christianity. I thought, no, we should just let people make their decisions. And I say the same to Christians when they're expecting non-Christians to have a similar lifestyle to them as a Christian. I'm like, well, they don't believe in a kingdom, so how can you expect them to have kingdom values?
Right.
So I can't expect them to have that exchange, but I would love it if But that's the thing. I think sometimes people project back onto us who are choosing to come back to purity and those kind of lifestyles because it actually makes them look at themselves and they question themselves, and there's a lot of shame that can project back. So
that's what I really think it is. I think
yeah.
it's that, I'm so confident, as you are, as most Christians are, except when you're a baby, there's a struggle. But most Christians, I think, you become so confident about your choice, because let's face it, we've had to pick our choice apart, we've had to analyze our choice, and we've had to measure our choice usually against a lifestyle that we lived prior. And so, you know what I mean? Especially if you're saved out of the world, you actually get to compare. Like, did it that way, doing it God's way, I don't know. It now puts me in a position where I can just look at my friends and say, well, how's that working for you? Because it wasn't working for me. So the reason for my choice is because it's my choice. And that's kind of like what I hear you saying. It's like, don't question my choice, because my answer is, why did I make it? Because it's working for me.
Yeah, exactly.
And how's yours working for you?
Exactly. But it does amaze me. It's not just teenagers. It's adults. It's fully grown adults in their 40s and 50s that will have these conversations with me as well. So that's why I'm like, it's a shame thing. It's not even a cultural generation thing. It's why?
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Anything different to what they chose to do, it's almost like they think it's stating something about what they shouldn't have been doing. And I'm not, you can do whatever you want. I'm just choosing to do it this way,
Exactly. That's why I love to say that, if we're running a race with your choices and my choices, we're at the starting line. I'll see you at the finish line. We'll see whose way was better. Break.
Right.
Go, I don't know, willing to take that bet, you know what I mean?
So yeah, that's good.
So listen, we're out of time for this session, but we're going to come back with you next week. So for all of you watching, I just encourage you, come on and join us next week, and we're going to pick up with the second part of our conversation with Carrie Lloyd, who is an awesome friend of this show. It's funny. I keep calling these, the sessions, or these are the Skype sessions. But honestly, I think I'm just going to change the entire name of this show and ministry to Cynthia and Friends, because I've been making some awesome friends and brothers and sisters, and I love when they stop by and they chat on the couch or on the screen, as the case may be. We will see you next week. I'm Cynthia Garrett. Thanks for watching. Hi guys, it's me. I hope you enjoyed this last session. I know that we sure did. And I just wanted to take a quick second and pop in and remind you to pick up a copy of my new book, Prodigal Daughter, A Journey Home to Identity. My heart is that you will all walk powerfully in your identity as found in Christ. And this book takes you through a whole lot of stuff that I've lived through, but more importantly, through all of the lessons that God has taught me through the different experiences and challenges and issues that I've had to overcome in my life. So I know we've all got stuff, and I know we all want victory. And so my hope is that in this book, you'll find some victory. It's available everywhere you can buy books, at online retailers and bookstores, and also you can find this and some other really great stuff on my website, cynthiagarrett.org. I love you guys, and I'll see you soon.